I was a little worried because about this time of day after such a delicious lunch, all the sugar levels go up, all the insulin levels come up, and then all the eyes go down. But Mark did a great job. The laughter from backstage was just stunning. So hopefully everyone is energized and ready to get a little geeky for just a few minutes. Is that all right? Just a few minutes? All right. So I'm Mark White. I'm a principal with Deloitte Consulting here out of the greater Washington area. And I serve as the Chief Technology Officer for the firm. One of the major things, the best job actually in the whole firm, I get to fly around and talk with business and mission and technology executives about what's on their agendas. I don't have to do anything. I have guys that do things. It's really fabulous. Unfortunately, it's only a tour of duty. It's a TDY. So, as of actually, in fact, just last week, I'm back on the streets again. But each year we produce a report called Technology Trends. So in your little packet, which has a candy bar or a nut bar in it, which if you have not, you should give to me. So, but there's a little card in there with a QR code on the back. If you shoot that QR code, you can get the full report electronically. There's also on our tables outside a bit of a cheat sheet. So we've given out several hundred. Hopefully you guys have it and we can use it today if you'd like, but a little bit of a cheat sheet, also a QR code. And those of you that are so equipped with a tablet, if you go and you search the Play or the App Store for Deloitte on Technology, you can get a digital version of this. So each year we have a chance to look at what we believe are the technology trends that are most relevant for adoption in the next 18 to 24 months. There are 3 rules that we apply to trends, because every global systems integrator has trends. That's okay, it's part of the rules. But we have 3 guidelines that have to apply before we write a trend. Firstly, it must be mission-led technology enabled. So it's not technology for technology's sake. I get tempted, and there is an IPv6 one, but this time really it's about the mission. Secondly, they are time horizon 2. So we expect significant adoption both in the public and the commercial sector over the next 18 to 24 months, time horizon 2. And third is my team won't let me write about a trend unless we have at least 3 examples of major mainstream enterprise or missions adopting along the path of the trend. Now that doesn't mean that we have 3 mature examples. In fact, that would frequently not be the case. But we have 3 examples of people dot to dot along the path of the trend. So they're kind of real. It's not sort of flying car future, quantum computing might someday be. So there are 10 of them this year. From the role of the CIO, a look at what's going on next with mobile and with social, certainly the topic of analytics, a look at cyber. There is no such thing as hacker-proof, and now what do we do? I mentioned a fairly significantly geeky pair. One of them is IPv6, and this time we mean it. And then one that has to do with the change under the hood of the big transactional systems called ERP. And then finally, there's one for you that are CIOs, the business of IT. Why? Oh, why have we spent 30 years providing the benefits of technology and software to every other piece of the business, front, mid, and back office, yet we ourselves have no shoes? The cobbler's children have no shoes. So what is ERP for IT, or perhaps not quite ERP for IT, and why don't we have it? So those are the 10 trends, and in the short time I have, I want to touch on a few of them. Those of you who have already heard me do my spiel, you may go get a coffee. It might not be a bad time after all. But touch on a few of them, but I thought I would start by actually zooming back a little bit and talk about some macro level trends that we think actually are setting the stage. These trends, I believe, honestly, wouldn't write them. I believe they are relevant for the most part. If not all 10 to your mission or to your customer or client's mission, if you're in the service to the federal government, then certainly a significant superset or subset of them, rather. What's happened, though, over the course of the past now 4 years, we've trended the trends a little bit. And there have been these set of forces that have continued to manifest. Again, I get to fly around the world and talk with people about what's on their agenda. Not surprisingly, I'm the propeller beanie guy, not surprisingly, mostly about technology. And there have been 5 macro trends, 5 forces is what we've decided to call them, that have continued to rise to the top, both individually and now, importantly, collectively. So, sorry for the crayons here. I normally do this on a whiteboard, and that was tough in the round. So we just did it and put it up on the whiteboard and took a picture of it and put it up here. So 5 forces Each one of them individually impactful and powerful, relatively newly emerged or rapidly evolving. Each one of the 5 very technology-centric, each one already impacting your business and your mission individually. And the 5 go like this: analytics, mobile, and social, cloud, and cyber. And not just cyber security, but cyber intelligence. And I'll spring into each one of those. But there's a set, and that set goes like that: analytics, mobile, and social, riding on the cloud, wrapped in cyber. And we believe that these collectively, not just individually, but collectively, have introduced or are in the process of introducing us to a new place, a new time in competition. Now, we call that, by the way, the post-digital era. Post-digital is meant to evoke post-industrial. None of us in the room, okay, maybe Van, but none of others in the room could remember the transition from the industrial economy to the post-industrial economy. Sorry, Van, it really was a joke. Right. You're sitting there, you know. So the post-industrial, from the industrial to the post-industrial economy. But remember from your schoolwork, what happened? Well, we didn't abandon industrialization. In fact, many of the large successful operations and companies had not yet fully embraced the tenets of and the mechanisms and mechanics of industrialization. But we declared ourselves a post-industrial economy when those factors of industrialization were no longer optional to my ability to perform and respond and compete. Industrialization had become table stakes to play in the American business and public sector marketplace. What we present to you today, what I believe, frankly, is we are at the same place now, moving from digital to post-digital. Digital forces, broadly characterized as analytics, mobile, social, cloud, and cyber, are no longer optional. They're no longer nice to have, fun to experiment, individually interesting. They are now collectively integrated, essential for us to be able to compete and to respond, and in fact to perform not only in the American market, but this day and age, digitally in the global marketplace. So, in the next 11 minutes and 37 seconds, minus the 2:30 that Mark took, I'm kidding. Let me touch on each one of those and the journey that we think we see ourselves on. In fact, we're talking with our clients about being on. So that journey really doesn't start yet in sort of the future. It starts in the now. And that now is so frequently the idea of ERP. Now, I recognize ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning Software, and many of us are in an industry where that's just not what we do. So these are the big integrated transactional mission systems with big functional footprints that cover a lot of what we do, and an underlying data model that is equally synthetic and integrated. That's what these big transactional systems are. And you spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort automating what you need to do. Business process automation, ERP. And the clients say, you know what, I've spent, $5, okay, $500 million on my ERP, and I'm kind of at a stage, I'll never be done, but I'm at a stage of repleteness. What shall I do to get more value? And for the last several years, easily the last 4, that answer has been, well, you've spent time automating what you need to do. Why don't we spend some time automating what you need to know and decide? Why don't we take those data that you've been transacting and put them to work for decisions with analytics? So the idea of introducing analytics as both a value add and innovation source, technology-enabled, mission-focused, right? Great. We start working on that. That becomes a piece of the puzzle. Then they come back, okay, well, that was pretty good. What next? And the answer is, anytime we begin talking about analytics, mobile is quickly on the horizon. And frankly, right after that, social. If I look, you always seek validation from other places. And so let me look at what SAP and Oracle have done in terms of their investment and acquisitions pipeline for the last 7 years. What you saw is, first, they buy additional footprint, so more of the business or mission function gets automated into the suite, but then they added integration, and then they added analytics, and then they've added mobile, and now they're adding social, and of course you have to be buzzword compliant, therefore they are cloud. As a member of the Technology Consulting Union, last year the workers' agreement required me to say cloud at least 3 times in every presentation. Cloud, 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 I'm compliant. This year's workers' agreement negotiation actually is requiring me to say big data at least 3 times. But there's another lobby that's looking for agile to be the word, so we're not quite settled on that. But in the case, big data agile, big data agile, big data agile, I'm good. We look at these things, and it turns out that they're individually important, valuable, worth the effort, but they are collectively transformational, even disruptive. So we call this intersection of, on top, now, I want to be clear, on top of having spent time and effort automating your core mission transactions, right? On top of that, get tremendous, in fact, disproportionate return by combining investments in analytics plus mobile plus social. Data-driven decisions, anytime, any place, with everybody that should be involved. That's the recipe. How do I make the data-driven decisions, anytime, any place, hyper-available, hyper-productive, with all of the people that should be involved? Not just if you think about social as a government to constituent or business to consumer, B2C play, but also to employee and to supplier and business, right? So everybody that needs to be involved. That's the recipe. That's pretty good. We call that the nexus. I want to be clear. Gartner, is anybody in the room from Gartner? Am I being recorded? Okay, Val, I said nexus and Gartner in the same phrase, but we say nexus and we mean these 3. When Gartner say nexus, they add one more thing. Cloud. Cloud. I'm doubly compliant now. NIST spoke earlier, the head of the IT labs at NIST spoke earlier. Great job, by the way, and some great remarks. And NIST have put out a set of characteristics, in fact, 5 characteristics to say when I evaluate an IT service, if it meets all 5 of these characteristics, it is a cloud service. If it's less than 5, or it's sort of less complete of those 5, it might be a managed service or a ASP or, plain old outsourcing, right? But it's not a cloud service. When I speak to cloud in this particular context, the idea of 5 digital forces that are conforming us into a new era of competitiveness, I want to really emphasize 2 of those characteristics of cloud, and they're up there. One is there's a catalog of services. In fact, in public cloud, an external catalog of services that have a very sophisticated and continuously growing and, importantly, externally innovated collection of things I can subscribe. So externally subscribed services that have a wide variety and continuing innovation. The other side of it is the elasticity of cloud. Elasticity in 2 ways. The scale, I can have a little or a lot, month over month, period over period, subscription period over subscription period. And the price of that elasticity is congruent. So if I have a little, I pay a little. If I need some more, I can pay some more, and then back and forth elastic. The picture before, this picture here, no, actually, that picture there is interesting, but not novel. What turned out, and it's important, you can make investments in those 3 things on top of your ERP and get real value, get real, better, cheaper, faster, and sometimes net new, disruptive. What happened when I added this is I changed the game slightly. It's always been the case that there have been 8 or 10 CIOs in the world whose IT shops were just net large enough that they could make a, quote, marginal investment to experiment. And that marginal investment got them 10 or 20 servers and 3 or 5 people and 5 or 6 pieces of software, and they could put those on the edge, and that was marginal in their cost, and they could truly experiment. And you know what? If it didn't work, they would stop using it, and they would just absorb those things back into the base capacity of their IT shop. For most of the rest of the normal people in the world, that was always just out of reach. So if I were a CIO working with a mission, and the mission said, hey, I think we can do something really interesting and different with mobile, I face this issue of I have to go and I have to actually procure it, and then I have to have it put on the dock, and then I have to have it provisioned to the rack, and then I have to train people, and that was for the hardware and the software. And so now I'm 3, maybe 6, I don't know, more months in before I'm actually even ready to begin anything to do with creating mission value. Cloud has changed that. Particularly those 2 characteristics of cloud services now allow the normal CIO, IT executive, and CISO, more on that, to do research-based innovation, experimental IT, with both a cost of abandonment and a risk of success that are both manageable. If I try it and it doesn't work, I just stop. If I try it and it does work, I can scale. That gives me innovation, the possibility to innovate in small pieces. Stephen Gillette, I tell this story a lot. Stephen Gillette, at the time that he made this remark, was the CIO of Starbucks Coffee, which would actually be a really good thing right now, right? I can't get coffee sent to you, but they're going to pump coffee aroma in just a little bit, so, you know. Gillette actually took this role at Starbucks at a time where Starbucks had practically zero investment in technology to help engage with their customers. Of course, they're a consumer retail business, so share of wallet, customer stickiness, customer intimacy, almost zero. And he started a bunch of small projects at once, and his colleagues and his peers, and frankly, some of us outside went, "Are you crazy? How in the world are you going to manage 6, 8, or 10 simultaneous, sort of even duplicative investments?" And here's the comment he made. In any time where the state of technology is either very newly emerged and/or very rapidly evolving, it's impossible to know what the right answer is. There is no best practice. There is no sort of single right answer. So you can't launch the $200 million, carrier. You have to launch a flotilla of small ships. So his mantra went like this. When you're facing this, where there's an opportunity to innovate, there's a need to respond and drive new capabilities, but you don't know what the answer is, and it's really changing fast, then plan big, start small, fail fast, and scale soon. Plan big, start small, fail fast, scale soon. Plan big does not mean a 5-level deep WBS for your enterprise data warehouse. For those of you that grew up doing enterprise data warehouses, you know it is the Hotel California of IT, right? You check in, but you can never leave, right? So the idea is that I'm going to understand the state of the possible with regards to social analytics, with regards to mobile connectivity for a broad set of communities that network to deliver my mission, right? Social mobile. I'm going to use the cloud to do that, so I'm going to start small. I'll even run competing horses, but I don't name my horses, because the ones that aren't winning, I'm going to take off the track, right? Fail fast. Did you know that it is possible to stop a project before you actually have expended all the budget? I know. As a consultant, that actually probably isn't. It's probably against the union rules. I got to think about that. But I actually have a client who's the CIO of one of the big super majors in the oil and gas, and actually in their IT culture, it is almost professional suicide to pull the plug on a project that you're running, to say, this was not the right way to invest. But that was what this takes. Plan big, start small, fail fast. But when you have one that works, don't wait until the very end to have a full enterprise for everybody at every scale, complete answer. Take what's valuable and deliver it to the scope in which the value can be immediately consumed, to the user group or to the segment or to the customer base or to the problem set that you can answer. Now, does that feel right? You're thinking about mobile apps for the enterprise. You're thinking about bringing social networks and social technology to work in your business to change not only what you do in terms of better, cheaper, faster, but do net new different things, right? Analytics plus mobile plus social, riding on this external services catalogs being innovated by other people that you can subscribe a little and scale a lot, right? Ultimately, however, that innovation needs to be risk intelligent. They said I had to do this like John Travolta. There we go. Okay, good. It needs to be risk intelligent. So the fifth element of our 5 forces for post-digital is cyber. And I don't mean just cybersecurity. In math, we would call that necessary but not sufficient. Cybersecurity is to detect, prevent, repair. Absolutely necessary but not sufficient. One of the things Pat had said earlier about that we had this unevenness where we built the castle walls, but they were 100 feet high in one place and 2 feet high in another. That just, doesn't make sense. So we did Skittle security. You know what Skittles are, right? Crunchy on the outside, soft and chewy on the inside, right? We did that, right? Perimeter defense. We dug the moats, we built the walls, and the bad guys still got in, and the good stuff still got out. Oh, then we did defense in depth, right? You need a card to get in the building, and then you need a card to get past reception, and then you need a card to get in the elevator, and then you need a card to get in your suite, and then you need a card when you sit down at your desk to plug in to enable your computing and your telecommunications. Defense in depth. And you know what? The bad guys still get in, and the good stuff still gets out. So what do? To your cybersecurity, you need to add cyber forensics, the modeling of the who and why and how, and cyber analytics, the prediction of where the puck will be. Those three collectively are fairly familiar now because they are the advanced persistent threat response. We would add one more, however, which is cyber logistics, secure supply chain, personnel, operational, and facility security. Currently generally reporting to acquisitions, HR, real estate, and I don't know, right? That's closing the barn door before the cows get out. Sorry for the southern metaphor. The more tired I am, the more southern I sound, but it's not as bad as the guy from Tyler, Texas. I just have to tell you that. So it's not just cyber secure, but cyber intelligent in your innovation investments. So this is what it looks like at the macro. And what I would say to you is this, plan big, state of the possible. Start small, fail fast, state of the practical. Scale soon, state of the valuable. And you can do this not $500 million at a time, not $5 million at a time. You can do this $500,000. You can do this $50,000 at a time. You can do this now in this environment and deliver real value in a manifest fashion on an ongoing basis to your mission, to your marketplace. Anybody that would be interested, I'd be delighted to talk about all of these to you, but have overstayed my welcome here. So for now, thank you very much for your time and attention.